Welcome to the second part of the discussion on two-pass assemblers using data structures and algorithms. In the last lecture we had discussed the part 1. Today we will be starting with part 2 or pass 2, right? So what are the data structures used in pass 2? First and foremost, a copy of the source program input is passed to the pass 2 from pass 1. So we have used a copy in pass 1, that copy is also sent to pass 2. The second thing is again a location counter. Then there is the machine operation table or MOT, which indicates the following fields: a symbolic mnemonic, the length, the binary machine opcode, and the format. The format or the instruction format. We have already learned these instruction formats: RR, RX, SI, etc. Right? So these are what the machine operation table indicates. Then we have the pseudo operation table or POT. This indicates for each pseudo op the symbolic mnemonic and the action to be taken, right? The symbol table prepared by pass 1 contains the labels and their corresponding values. We have already seen what labels are in the first lecture on assemblers. Similarly, the base table indicates the registers which are currently specified as base registers with the using pseudo op and what are the contents of these registers, right? All of these will become very clear if we again recap the first lecture on assemblers, where we have discussed all of these pseudo ops in details. Moving ahead, we have a workspace called INST. The job of INST is to hold an instruction as its various parts are being assembled. The job of INST is to hold an instruction as its various parts are being assembled. So the parts of an instruction are the binary opcode, the different register fields, the displacement, the length, and etc. So the job of the workspace INST is to be able to hold these various parts as they are being made a sense of, right? Then there is a workspace called print line, which is used to produce a printed listing of all the instructions. A workspace called punch card is used prior to actual output for converting the assembled instructions into the format which is needed by the loader. So there is a workspace which we call the punch card, where all the instructions are saved in a proper format. Now this proper format is the format which the loader can understand, because this output in machine language will be executed by the loader, and the output deck or the output program of assembled instructions is the final form which the loader can execute, right? So the workspace is called the punch card, where before the actual outputting the converted instructions are kept, and all of these instructions are compiled, and the final form is known as the output deck or the output program. Moving ahead, we will start with the algorithm for pass 2. Similar to pass 1, first the location counter is initialized to the relative location 0. Then we read the first instruction. An instruction is read from the source file, right? So we read the first instruction. Again, similar to pass 1, the opcode field is examined. The opcode field is examined to determine if it is a pseudo op or not. If not a pseudo op, we search the machine opcode table to find a match for the opcode field. Now this matching opcode field specified many things such as the length, the binary opcode, and the format or type of instruction. Now depending on the type of instruction, this instruction has to be made sense of, right? Depending on the type of the instruction, we have to make a sense. How do we make a sense? The operand fields of different instruction formats require different types of processing. For RR format, for example, there are two register fields. There is an opcode followed by two register fields. So in case of the RR format, we can see here it is written that we evaluate both register expressions and insert them into the second byte. RR is a 2-byte format, right? So in the second byte we keep the evaluated register expressions. This step is known as eval. In the next step, we punch the assembled instructions. That is, we keep a copy of the assembled instruction and print it in the listing line, print it in the data structure. After that, we increment the location counter. So this is for the RR instruction. So the main step, depending on the instruction format, the main step is the evaluation of the fields. In the case of the RX format, the evaluation process is a bit more complex, because for the RX format, the register and index fields are evaluated same as in RR, because we know that in the RX format we have the first operand, in the operand the first part is a register, followed by the displacement, base and index register. Now, similar to the RR format, the register and the index register fields are evaluated first. Then the storage address operand is evaluated to generate the effective address. What does this storage address operand use? It uses a content of the base register and the displacement or the offset, right? For doing that, the base register table is checked to find a suitable base register so that the displacement value is less than 4096. Now this is something we need to understand. While evaluating the RX format instruction, the base register table is checked so that a suitable base register can be found. Why? Because the displacement has to be less than 4096. What is 4096? Why is it important? 4096 is the total available memory for a IBM 360 machine, right? So whatever displacement value we use, or whatever displacement value we now put in the RX format, that displacement value has to be less than 4096. Now what gives us 4096? We get 4096 using the effective address minus the content of base register, right? So in this manner we can define what displacement we will use, what displacement we are using in the RX format instruction. So this is the step: calculate the effective address of operand. Calculate an effective address of operand such that the displacement is less than 4096. So the following step is determine the appropriate displacement and base register. To get register D plus content of base, that is displacement plus content of base, gives us the effective address, right? This step is known as BT get. Fine. So for RR, there was a simple step of evaluation where both the registers were evaluated and directly stored, followed by punching and printing. For the RX format, this step is more complex, because first we are doing the same thing as RR with the register and index register, but for the following storage operands, for the next storage operands, we will need to calculate an effective address denoted by EA by checking the base table and finding a suitable base register, so that the displacement plus content of base register will be equal to effective address, and that value will be less than 4096 for the displacement, right? So this is the step taken in pass 2 for the RX format. Then the 4-bit base register and 12-bit displacement are assembled into the 3rd and 4th bytes of the instruction. So it is written put B and D into bytes 3 and 4. Then we again move on to punching and printing, and then we increment the location counter with the length of the instruction for RX format, right? This is the case for RX format instruction. Similar processing is done for all the other instruction formats, which we are not going to discuss here, right? So after the instruction is assembled, it is put in necessary format for later processing by the loader using the punch, right? So after the instruction is assembled, it is put into necessary format for later processing by the loader, and a listed line containing the source program, assigned storage location and hexadecimal presentation is then printed. This is these two steps: the punch assembled instruction step, which says that after instruction is assembled, it is put into necessary format for later processing by the loader, And the following step is print the assembly listing line. This listed line contains the source program or the source instruction, the assigned storage location and its corresponding hexadecimal representation. This is printed. Finally, the location counter is incremented. So for RR instruction there is a particular evaluation, for RX instruction there are particular evaluation steps, followed by, in both cases, a punching and a printing, and then the location counter is incremented. If you have any problem with understanding these part, please pause the video, go back a few slides and come through these steps again. I am sure you will understand. Okay, moving ahead. In some case, as in pass 1, we could have a situation where each pseudo op requires special processing in pass 2, right? So as in pass 1, we have seen that initially after reading the instruction we have checked for the opcode, whether it's a pseudo opcode or not. Now the previous steps we have discussed assuming that it is not a pseudo opcode, but if it were a pseudo opcode we have to determine which one it is. See, there is a step called search pseudo op table. If it is found to be a pseudo opcode, then which one is it? Is it a DC or DS pseudo opcode? Is it a EQU or start pseudo opcode, using opcode, or drop or end opcode, right? So we will now discuss what happens in each of the opcodes cases. So the EQU requires the minimum amount of processing, as the symbol definition is already completed for the EQU pseudo op. So it is only required to be printed. See, EQU directly comes to the print listing part, right? For using and drop instructions, some additional processing is required. Now for using, we have to evaluate the operand and enter the base register number and value into the base table using BTSTO step, right? So for both using and drop, the operand fields are evaluated, then base table entry is marked as available if using is used, or unavailable if the drop pseudo operation is used, right? We have already discussed the actual use of using and drop pseudo operations in the first lecture. So if you have any problems here, you can always go back to the first lecture and verify, right? The base table is used extensively in pass 2 to compute the base and displacement fields for storage operands in machine instructions, right? So the base table is extensively used in pass 2. It's a data structure which is extensively used in pass 2. Now we have already now discussed the EQU and start instructions and the using or drop instructions. Next we come to the DS and DC instructions. Now these two instructions are again essentially processed in pass 2, but for DC in pass 1, excuse me, but for DC in pass 2, the actual code must be generated. For the defined constant pseudo op, the actual code must be generated in pass 2. Now depending upon the specified data type, this may involve some conversions, that is floating point to binary point, etc., right? Again, the end pseudo op, we already know, it indicates the end of the source program and it terminates the assembly, that is, it terminates the assembly language program. Now for detailed description of what DC pseudo op does, what DS pseudo op does, for each of these pseudo ops you can always go back to the first lecture and you can check what happens. For DC and DS here, we will simply adjust the location counter to proper alignment. If it is DC, we will form a constant value and insert it in the assembly program, which is called DC gen. If it is a DS, we do not need to go through this step. We will simply keep L as the length of the data field and we will stop there with the DS part, right? So this is what happens in case of the pseudo ops, right? This is what happens in the case of the pseudo ops. Now when we are moving towards end, we will generate the literals for entry in the literal table. This we have already again discussed. We can always refer to the first lecture on assemblers where we have discussed the literals and the literal table. Now when we are coming to the end part, after each of these operations, when we are coming to the end part, we will simply generate the literals for entries in the literal table, and these literals will be allocated addresses when we come across a LTORG or the end, right? We had studied when we come across LTORG or end, the literals are denoted some addresses, some location values. So when we have come to end, since here is no LTORG discussed, we have come to end, so we will generate the literals for entries in the literal table, right? So this is the algorithm for pass2. These are the steps in the algorithm for pass2. In the next slide, we can see the databases that are used in different passes, right? The databases that are used in different passes of a assembler. Right now we are dealing with a 2-pass assembler. So in pass 1 we have used a source program. The DEC stands for a program here. So there is a source program which is fed as input. This pass 1 of the assembler uses some data structures such as location counter, the pseudo op table, machine op table, symbol table and literal table, right? Using these data structures, the pass 1 of the assembler makes a intermediate copy. This copy of the source program. This is sent to the pass 2 of the assembler, right? Now pass 1 and pass 2 use the same database for 3 cases. It uses the same machine op table, uses the same symbol op table and the same literal table. All the other databases used by pass 2 are new. There is a listing, location counter, print line, punch card, machine instruction workspace, pseudo op table and base register table. So this is a description, a visual description of all the data structures used in both the passes. Now pass 2 of the assembler gives as output an object DEC or a object program, which is essentially a program written in machine language, that is, it is written in zeros and ones, right? So in this lecture we have covered the design specifications of an assembler, how an assembler is designed using 2 passes, and we have gone through extensively what data structures are used in each pass and what are the algorithms of each pass, what is the flowchart of each pass, right? So for references you can always go through the book by John Donovan, Systems Programming, or you can find the same discussion in the notes I have already provided. See you in the next lecture. Bye.